Hello, welcome. Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 32, New Social Movements. Let us start our topic, Autonomy of New Identity. Can new identity that is formed out of the collective action be autonomous of the ideology and organization of the movement? Scholars have identified new social movements ideology with freedom and life. In this context, the notion of autonomy is crucial. There are several dimensions to this issue. The first is personal autonomy. Psychosocial practices such as consciousness arising within the women's movement have had at least one of their aims: the liberation of individual movement from personal and ideological barriers to the personal freedom through the reconstruction of their life histories and by making them aware of personal oppressions, while at the same time stressing their potential power as women. The next is extension of personal and group autonomy. The narrowly defined political aims of these movements are comprehended as an extension of personal and group autonomy by challenging several restrictions on freedom. Thus, the arguments for free abortion on demand can be viewed as a way of increasing a woman's freedom to make choices concerning her own body, of removal or gender or racial discrimination at work as extending of range of individual or collective freedom enjoyed by group members. The next is autonomy struggle. Autonomy struggle of the new social movements demands that the representatives of these movements be allowed to fight their own without interference from other movements and without subordinating their demands to other external priorities. These aspects of autonomy are closely linked. However, any attempt to conceptualize a new social movement exclusively in terms of autonomy may be confusing. The distinction between the personal and the political is not very clean. The issue of personal autonomy, freedom, etc. are political in nature. The assumption that a new social movement is autonomous of political interference and is essentially concerned with cultural issues is also not valid. Many of the new social movements are concerned with the political questions, for example, citizen rights, representations, civil rights movements. All these are oriented towards political and legal institutions. Thus, the issue of autonomy is to be circumscribed specifically in the context of the social movement under study. Now, let us move to the next point: new social movements and resistance against domination. Actors in subordinate positions are never wholly dependent and are often very adept at converting whatsoever resources they possess into some degree of control over the conditions of reproduction of the system. Thus, compliance of the subordinate within the power relations may be explained not by lack of resistance but by the absence of the means to implement such resistance. The structure of the domination thus is not free from contestation. There have been resistance and struggle in various forms against this domination. To J.C. quote even in the large-scale structures of domination, and subordinates have a fairly extensive social existence outside the immediate control of the dominant. It is in such settings that a shared critique of domination develops by way of creating a hidden transcript that represents a critique of power as spoken behind the back of the dominant. He suggests that rumors, gossip, folk tales, songs and gestures, jokes and thereafter of the powerless function as a mechanism to indirectly develop a critique of power. Let us examine the ways new collective identities have emerged in India as a language of resistance against domination. Now let us move to the next point, new collective identities. Identity is a social construction. It is a continually shifting description of ourselves. Identities are emerged based on the probability of choice, plurality of options and regions, and to deny plurality, choice, and reasoning in identity can be a source of repression. Identities are self-cognition tied to roles, through roles to positions in organized social relationships. That a given identity can be invoked in a variety of situations, or it can be defined as differential probability. Here we may reflect on the multiple identities of the contemporary subject, that is the weaving of the patterns of identity from the discourses of class, race, nation, gender, etc. The construction of identity also involves the social production of the boundaries, reflecting the process of inclusion and exclusion. As collective identity is a matter of social construction, it gets reconstructed in multiple ways in the process of transformation of social movements. Social movements not only help generate new collective identity but also provide a broad field for the transformation of this identity. Sustained grassroots mobilization have paved the way for the articulation and rejuvenation of gender, caste, farmer, citizen and ethnic etc. identities. In West Bengal, peasants have been part of the Kamtapuri movement, as in North Bengal, and limited MGO activism, and in Andhra Pradesh the anti-Arak prohibition movement, Madhiga and Thudum Debas, Telangana statehood movement, civil liberties, farmers, etc. movements. The Kamtapur movement for regional, cultural, ethnic autonomy of the Rajbanshi, a scheduled caste, has started gaining ground in North Bengal with the demand of a separate state comprising the 6 districts of Kuch, Behar, Jalpaiguri, Darjeeling, North Dinapur, South Dinapur and Malda. To initiate this movement, a regional party by the name of Uttarakhand Dal was formed in 1980s. Now this movement has got momentum under the leadership of Kamtapur People's Party (KPP). Through this movement, the Rajbanshis are putting up resistance against the gradual erosion of their cultural and linguistic identity and their economic marginalization in society. They allege that North Bengal has been economically neglected and politically dominated by the Kolkata-centered state administration of West Bengal. This movement has taken a new turn with the formation of an extremist group called Kamtapuri Liberation Organization (KLO), which has initiated frontal attack on the left activists in various parts of the North Bengal. A section of the Rajbansis who are now growing more and more identity conscious in terms of history, language, traditional social structure, occupation and land rights has become part of this movement. Unemployed educated youth and school dropouts are more open in expressing their adherence to this movement than others. A young man from the Naxalbari who prefers to remain unidentified in the wake of police action against KLO activists says, "We are deprived of our opportunities in our own land. The outsiders own the tea gardens. All government services are taken away and manned by the Batis, Bengali migrants from other part of the state. Marwaris and the Punjabis who look down upon us own all businesses. They laugh at our language, our food habits and our dress. We have to speak in their language in our own land." Though the separate Telangana statehood movement in the Telangana region of Andhra Pradesh has a long history, it has got a momentum in recent years with the formation of the Telangana Rashtriya Samiti (TRS) and its electoral success in the last election. Several issues have been raised pertaining to the Andhra domination over the Telangana region in the economic, cultural and political terms. Most important among these have been that of the exploitation of the natural resources of Telangana for the benefits of the other parts of the state. Appointment of more and more Andhra speaking people in the government jobs in the Telangana region and persisting agricultural backwardness, poverty, unemployment, illiteracy, etc. of the people of Telangana. The economic miseries of Telangana are explained in terms of Andhra domination over the Telangana. The wholesale exploitation of the resources of Telangana for the benefit of the Andhra region is accompanied by attacks on the way of life of the Telangana people. The Andhra rulers are never tired of saying that the people of Telangana are uncultured. Thus, the suicidal attempt to subjugate Telangana permanently continues. Again, Madhika reservation, Pota Smiti movement of the scheduled caste and Thudum Deba movement of the scheduled tribes are demanding recategorization of each of the scheduled caste and tribes of Andhra Pradesh into A, B, C, D categories based on their levels of economic, educational and political advancement for the purpose of getting benefits of reservation. Again, there have been the cotton growers and anti-suicide movements of the farmers in the Telangana region. The anti-Arik movement led by peasant women has its strong impact all over the Andhra Pradesh. Poor peasants have been parts of most of these movements. For example, Razi Ramma, the female Sarpanch of Mala Reddy Pale, was associated with the anti-Arik movement. She is also a strong advocate of the Madiga reservation movement and a participant in the cotton growers and anti-suicide movements. She is also part of the separate Telangana state movement. She says the life of a peasant woman in Telangana is full of struggle and we are all part of the struggle in Telangana. The left political parties have tried both ideologically and strategically to inculcate the class for itself identity of the peasantry. However, over the years, in the process of ideological modification and strategic class alliance with the landed gentry for electoral politics, the basis of class-based politics has widely eroded among the peasantry. Again, as the class identity has not looked many of the micro issues, thus in alongside the old actors of the class groups, political parties and the state with all its instruments, new actors have emerged in the form of caste, gender, ethnicity and religion. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.